Hi guys, just checking in to ask where the PvP strike team has gone, because I was reading the TWAB, and I really just want to know where the team that made the March update has gone, because why are we making it so Vortex grenades repeatedly pull in enemies when charged and making it so Warlocks have 2 of them? What are we doing? Why are we already in hell and just making it worse for some reason? And it's not even getting to like the rest of the sandbox, which is actually just in shambles. Like, how have we just learned nothing from the last 3 DLCs of sandbox balancing, to where we have literally gone back in a single update to where we were in like the middle of Witch Queen? How? I think Void is just the best subclass in the game. Again, Hunter hasn't even been changed from last season. Titan can get double suppressor grenades, 3 peaks and trials for free, easy overshield and 83 damage by just using throwing shield because there's so much aim assist now you can just toss it out and get free damage. Twilight Axe is Twilight Axe. You get easy devour and healing from controlled demolition. And because of the changes they've said in the new TWAB, you get an extra aspect slot with Unbreakable, which gives you 3 peaks, as I've already said. And there's literally no reason to not just run Cessation, which gives you Void Breaches for killing volatile targets. So on top of getting the healing from controlled demolition, you also get Devour, because who isn't running Starvation in 2025? And then there's Warlock, which is for some reason getting buffed, because... why? Void Soul hasn't been changed since it was literally introduced, despite being a map range 20 meter radius weaken, slow, damaging orb of sadness. They can now get either Devour an ability kill or 2 grenades and the aforementioned Vortex and nukes that will repeatedly pull in players, because Void Warlock was absolutely bad and absolutely needed more buffs. Like, no, I totally didn't change to Astrocyte Verse and Void Warlock last season when I was trying to get Ascendant and instantly went from Platinum to, like, Ascendant rank within, I think, a month. That didn't happen at all. No, there's no reason enough Void Warlock. Void Warlock's bad, actually. Void Warlock needs buffs, honestly. Yeah. And then there's Arc. I think they're just trying to remove any and all skill from Arc, because there's Flux Grenades. I know nobody used Flux Grenades, because I've literally never seen them other than me using them. But they buffed Flux Grenades for some reason. And now, instead of being something that actually required skill for a one-shot, and had a really long cooldown, and you could only get like 3 of them in a control match. But now you get one every like 53 seconds or something. It's like a minute cooldown. And they have more tracking for some reason. I think they have as much tracking as throwing knives now. Because that was reasonable. That was perfectly a reasonable change to give everyone a 53-second insta-kill. On, like, one of the better subclasses in the game. And then to continue with them removing skill from Arc, there's Arc Hunter, which has gone from what I would consider the most dexterous, skill-based movement subclass to literally free kills. Like, previously, right, to be able to use Tempest Strike, which is stupid on its own, you had to be in sidearm to, like, shotgun range to be able to use Gambler's Dodge, to be able to use it, well, like, often. So therefore it was, like, actually justifiable that it could wipe an entire team, even though it couldn't even wipe an entire team previous to fucking Edge of Fate. But they changed all the melee scaling, so now with the new melee scaling, if you get hit by a single melee attack, which you're most likely going to be, you can just wipe an entire team because the jolt does 50 damage and then the melee itself does 200. But then you can now spam them, because instead of Gambler's Dodge requiring you to be near combatants, it now just works from any distance. The changes they're making, where it's something like 50% efficiency with no players nearby, isn't actually going to do anything, because Arc Hunter doesn't even get supers anyway in trials. So you could just take all of the super stat you currently have, and then just dump it straight into melee. And like in comp you only really need like 80. And you probably won't even get a super most of the time, unless you're in like a really long collision match. So just, why not have 100 melee energy and just completely bypass any change? And then I think the melee scaling changes made it so Arc Warlock's Lightning Strike can one-shot players. But I've not seen it much, because I've only really seen Lightning Strike on Prismatic, where people are just using it with necrotic grips where it one-shots anyway. But I know for a fact Knockout Iron with high melee stat will one-shot, because I can truly never have enough of feedback fence Knockout Irons removing any and all close-range combat from the video game on the close-range combat subclass. On Solar, I'm surprised it's mostly fine. I think the main things are incendiary grenades, which deal 80 scorch for some reason and 150 damage. So if you get tagged by them, you're basically at 0 health for the next 10 minutes. And then there's Solar Hunter. Solar Hunter's the main one, with the shotgun cannon, which I question why and how there was not changed. Or, like, completely removed before release, because why would you make a instant primary 130 damage gun and not just test the fact that you can throw a melee ability afterwards and instantly one-shot a player? It's like, we know that's not fun. The game has existed for 11 years. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that nobody finds getting one-shot by something that has infinite uptime to be very enjoyable, but we still keep adding them for some reason. Strand is basically back to suspend builds because there are nothing suspending Slam for some fucking reason. I genuinely don't know why. And then they've also got the Strand Titan barricades that they buffed that can now carve like 90 degrees to get you and now force you to jump, which then forces you to have AE, which is fine for me because I'm using it anyway and I haven't noticed it. But for anyone on console, good fucking luck, dude. And then Stasis may as well just not be in the fucking game. I'll be real, the only thing they have is probably like Titan with Cryoclasm that now has a 2-second cooldown. And maybe Stasis Warlock, which is just kind of annoying, and that's about all it does. And then I just don't think the balancing weapons anymore because you have Graviton Spike in the game, which is a 150 hand cannon. So it's already amazing, because there's good stats. But they can then switch to a 120 with the same range as 120s. It can 2-tap people. It stuns players, by the way. If you're moving horizontally, it stuns you, because that's to make the stasis crystals. And for some reason they couldn't program it into the game, where it can make the stasis crystals where you were shot instead of where you currently are, so it stuns you. I love that that's a mechanic. That's so fun, not being able to avoid the fucking 2-shot. That's so fun, by the way. It can be paired with a shotgun hand cannon, which 2-hit kills players from sidearm range, with infinite ammo, and its time to kill can be reduced from fucking lightweight knives that players have 2 of for free, and it can be used to make shotty handguns one-shot players, because that's fun. And then, on top of that, literally fucking nothing from last season was changed, because of course. We just didn't want to fix the meta at all. We just didn't want to fix the sandbox for some reason. So they introduced the weapon stat, where we now have people being weirdos with 165 weapon stat, 2 bursting people and 3 tapping people with 390s or 180s, which thank god I haven't seen more of because it's just fucking stupid. There's Redrex and Battler that still exist and are still as good as they were, and is probably the main fucking counter to the fucking Graviton. Outbreak's still amazing. Duburst sidearms still shouldn't exist and shouldn't have been buffed in the first place because they were already good. They just weren't used. Then they've reintroduced Forgiveness, and that somehow managed to take the Heresy sidearm spot as the top sidearm in the game. So you know as soon as shotty handguns are nerfed into oblivion, they're just going to use that instead, despite what they do to nerf it. Precision Instrument on rapid-fire scout rifles is still a thing and still quite good because... yeah, and they clearly know it's a thing because they literally put it on the trial scout rifle and just continue to do literally nothing about it for some reason. Weapons are even more stat creeped and easy to use than they've ever been, and will continue to be because they've made it so tiered weapons now get like +5 when you have them at tier 5 in every stat instead of like the +2 we used to get from adapts. Special meter, like I fucking predicted, literally did nothing to curb special ammo use, and it's just as much as it was before patch. The second 450 pulses and Graviton get nerfed, everyone's just gonna switch over to aggressive burst pulse rifles, precision instrument scout rifles, and then we're going to be instantaneously in a long-range meta again, which is the same long-range meta we're currently in, because nobody can fucking play the game anymore, apparently, and Bungie don't want people to. And this is probably proven by the fact that SMGs are perpetually in limbo because they seem to constantly flip-flop between being literally the worst guns in the game and the most broken on a dime. And slugs are literally just going to replace shoddy handgunners when they eventually have to be disabled, because the only way to actually balance an infinite ammo 2-tap instant damage weapon is to just make them garbage. Because who thought giving every player a gun that fucking 2 shots with infinite ammo from fusion rifle range would be a good idea? Genuinely, I want to know who thought that would be a good idea, because I just don't think you should have control over the sandbox anymore. But speaking of, they're pausing non-critical sandbox changes for some reason, because that will surely help everything and make the game instantaneously good. I can't wait for the -5 handling nerf for Graviton Spike. That'll fix the gun.